This is a comparison of solid gold fit as a fiddle with Alaskan Pollock. Solid gold. Let's stay in indoor cat chicken, lentil, and apple recipe. Nulo Metal Series cat and kitten turkey recipe limited ingredient diet. Solid gold Katz-N-Flocken everyday nutrition lamb and brown rice recipe with pearled barley. And Crave indoor cat adult food chicken real first ingredient. And that Crave is one of my cat's favorites. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour those, I'm going to put 2 cups into each of these saucers and let my cat choose what he wants to eat and how much he wants to eat of each of those, and we'll go from there. Correction, not 2 cups, half a cup. I use this quarter cup here. And bad news, PetSmart is no longer carrying solid gold. They're closing it out. I don't know why. It's a good series. So I put them all out for him and they're in that order. So it's solid gold fit as a fiddle on the far left. Solid gold Let's Stay In next. Solid gold Katz-N-Flocken, Nulo cat and kitten limited ingredient diet turkey recipe, and Crave chicken. And he's going for the Crave chicken. Well, we'll see how it turns out. Okay, so it's now been 24 hours, and, well, he clearly loved the Crave because it's all gone. And he really hasn't eaten much of the other ones except for that one there. He's had some of that one too, I think. Wow. In the absence of Crave, he's going nuts on the Fit as a Fiddle from Solid Gold, which is this blue one here. And I think he's barely sampled the Nulo and the other Solid Gold there. That is the Let's Stay In. And this one here is the other Solid Gold, that small bag, Katz-N-Flocken. So it seems like number 1 is the Crave, number 2 is the Fit as a Fiddle, and number 3 is the Katz-N-Flocken. Weird name. Well, we'll see tomorrow. Okay, so last night he finished up the Fit as a Fiddle, and now he's demolished the Let's Stay In. So that leaves him with the Nulo, which he's made some inroads with, and the Katz-N-Flocken, which he hasn't used much more since last time. So it turns out that his least favorite was the Nulo, because that's the one there's still some stuff on the plate. Okay, so now you're wondering, well, what's the best and what's the worst? Well, you know, really it depends on your cats. Some cats are very choosy, and some cats are not so choosy. And I have taught my cat not to be particularly fussy. So what I do is I regularly switch between at least 3 different food products. So at each meal, I give him something different. This gives him a wide variety of products that help to balance out what may be missing from one product is in one of the other products. Because I don't buy all of the same brand either. I buy different brands. And one of the first things I do to eliminate brand names is look and see if corn or other some other thing is the top ingredient, some other non-animal thing. So corn or potatoes or wheat or anything like that. If that's the first ingredient, it's an automatic no. Because as I've said in other videos, when I looked at some research where they took cats and they gave them a choice of 3 different dishes of food. One had protein, one had fat, and one had carbs. All the cats ate around 53% protein and around 36% fat and exactly 11% carbs. This is because they're domesticated, just like dogs have been domesticated and now eat carbs, whereas wild dogs don't eat carbs, and wild cats typically are not as inclined to eat carbs either, right?
according to Sherlock, my dear cat, or our dear cat, Crave Real Chicken Indoor Adult Cat Food is his top choice out of these 5. And then the second best was Solid Gold Fit as a Fiddle, Weight Control with Alaskan Pollock. And then number 3 was Let's Stay In Indoor Cat Chicken, Lentil, and Apple Recipe. Number 4 was Katz-N-Flocken Everyday Nutrition Lamb and Brown Rice Recipe with Pearled Barley. And finally, the least favorite was Nulo, Cat and Kitten Turkey Recipe Limited Ingredient Diet. Now, I collected a bunch of information about each of these products to try and figure out why he liked the Crave so much better than everything else. I mean, he barely touched any of the other foods until the Crave was gone. And then he was, he was like one by one knocking them off, but he definitely seemed to have some preferences. So I want to share with you some observations that I've made. So all of them were for adults, except for the Katz-N-Flocken and the Nulo, I believe, were both for all ages. None of them, except for Katz-N-Flocken, had grains. So that may have contributed, and none of them, except for Katz-N-Flocken, had gluten that I'm aware of. Although I'm not entirely sure with the Nulo, I didn't see any gluten or wheat or corn or soy in it, but it wasn't specifically stated on the packaging that I noticed either. Of the 5 of them, his first and second favorite, Crave and Fit as a Fiddle, both had potatoes, but his least favorite, Nulo, had sweet potatoes. The other 2 didn't have potatoes. Also, his top 2 had tapioca, the other 3 did not. And all 5 of them had legumes in them, peas and stuff, lentils. Interestingly enough, out of the 5, Crave is the only one that had no oil in it. His second and third choices, Fit as a Fiddle and Let's Stay In, had salmon oil, whereas the Katz-N-Flocken and the Nulo Cat and Kitten had both canola and salmon in it. Now, in the case of Nulo, it was non-GMO salmon. So it seems to me like maybe those were in the very last place, and I really feel like he did not care for them very much, was because there was this plant oil in them. I feel that was a contributing factor, as well as the presence of potatoes, regular potatoes, not sweet potatoes. Also, and maybe tapioca as well. Also, a possible contribution was the fact that of them all, only Crave did not have probiotics. Bacillus coagulans was in all the other ones. But that did not affect the order of what was eaten. I mean, if we look at other factors, then yeah, we can say Solid Gold Fit as a Fiddle seemed to be a leader partially because it had potato and tapioca in it, and it didn't have canola oil in it. But yeah, so I can't say much about the carbs because out of them all, only Nulo stated that it was low carbs and low glycemic index. The others didn't give any information about that at all. And in fact, I was really irritated when I looked at the crude analysis. The guaranteed crude analysis used to tell you how much carbohydrates is in the cat food you're looking at. And now they no longer include that stuff. And that really irritates me because that is important. So here's another thing that really didn't seem to make a lot of difference, and that was the amount of protein. So his top favorite was again, the Crave, but it had 40% protein. His second favorite was in last place with only 31%, whereas the other 3 had 36, 34, and 38% respectively. Now, as far as fat, again, it didn't seem to be a contributing factor because Crave was tied with the number 3 choice as his favorite, and his second choice had the least amount, and the most fat was found in the Nulo. So that didn't seem to be it. And then fiber didn't seem to be it either because Crave had 6% versus, what was it, Katz-N-Flocken? I've forgotten the names. Fit as a Fiddle, which had 9% versus Let's Stay In had 8%, Katz-N-Flocken had 3%, and Nulo had a 4.5%. So that didn't really seem to matter. All of them had 10% moisture, which is as it should be. Out of them all, only Nulo tells you how much calcium, phosphorus, and vitamin A is in them. Crave does not list vitamin E. It also does not list its content for omega-3 or vitamin C. But so I can't really comment on those things. I can, let's see, vitamin E. Say that the Crave had the most omega-6, but it doesn't tell me how much omega-3 was in there. So I don't know if that played a factor in it or not. The one with the least omega-3 was at the same level, the Nulo, and they both had 3%. So it's not the omega-6s. And then finally, they all met or exceeded the AAFCO's levels. I'm not really enthused with the AAFCO because they seem to. I have some doubts about their standards. Let's just say that. So finally, I looked at how much meat, how much meal, how much byproducts, and then the ratio of animal to non-animal foods in the top 10 ingredients. So for meat, all of them had only one meat. It was the first ingredient, which is important, and Nulo had 2. But I know Sherlock is not terribly fond of things like duck and lamb, so maybe the lamb played a role. However, when I've given him Nulo before, a different kind, he did not care for it either. So I think there's something about their formulation and that he just doesn't care for. Then as far as meal, the Crave had 2, the Fiddle had 3, the Let's Stay In had 3, the Katz-N-Flocken had 2, and Nulo only had 1 type of meal in it. Of them all, Crave had fewer animal byproducts. When I say byproducts, I mean like fat and skin and bones and oil and eggs. And in the Crave, I think the only thing that was in there was animal fat. And then as for the ratios, between animal and non-animal ingredients in the top 10, the ratios between Crave and Katz-N-Flocken, which was number 4 again, were the same at 2 to 3. Or rather, there were 4 animal products to 6 non-animal products in the top 10 ingredients. Whereas with all the other ones, it was a 50-50 thing. So yeah. Now I just want to step back for a second here because of them all, the Nulo had the most taurine at 0.05% more than all of the other ones. Whereas Crave had 0.16. And so, yeah, it's not the taurine either. Obviously that's something they need, but clearly he wasn't looking for taurine specifically by using his Jacobson's organ on the top of his mouth. So I can speculate very little as to why he chose what he did, other than the presence or absence of bacteria. So he may have influenced Crave to be the first choice, and the lack of oil may have made a contribution too, especially if it had been sitting around long enough that the oil went bad, or the oil or the product was cooked at a high enough temperature that the oil went bad, or it was turned into trans fats or something like that that a cat wouldn't necessarily enjoy. So and that is a definite risk with kibble. Now I've heard a lot of people say kibble's bad for cats. Well, if you're feeding the cat the low quality stuff that has lots of corn and stuff like that, very little actual meat and mostly like byproducts of skin and fat and internal organs rather than the muscles, then yeah, and you're only using one brand again, right? And your cat doesn't naturally choose to drink a lot. My cat does. That could definitely lead to problems, but I vary his diet, And every time we've gone, the veterinarian has commented on how glossy his fur is and how healthy he is. And she just is just, and I don't tell her because she doesn't like kibble. She's a holistic vet and she believes in all natural and all that stuff. And I don't want to argue with her about it because she's a little bit quirky sometimes, but she's a really nice lady and a good vet. So you can do it with kibble as long as you're going to buy the quality stuff, but you cannot find it at Kroger, you cannot find it at Meijer, you cannot find it at Aldi, and most other regular grocery stores. You have to go to the places where they actually sell quality pet food, like Petco, PetSmart, even Jungle Gyms has it, and certain other places. But yeah, Chewy, I guess, would be another option. So again, look for about 53% protein. You're not going to find it. Honestly, you're not going to find this. These numbers don't exist in actual cat food. The best you're going to find is maybe 40% protein, maybe 20% fat, and then you don't really know most of the other stuff, except for maybe the moisture is going to be around 10% with kibbles. But, you know, again, looking at this, it seems like the bacteria, the oil, the tapioca, and the potatoes were the major contributors to what my cat did and didn't like. And who knows, maybe my cat doesn't like sweet potatoes. I don't know. I know he likes corn. He will eat corn. Cats do like corn, but it's not good for them, just like it's not particularly good for us because it's got omega-6s but no omega-3s. So yeah, that is about all I can tell you. If you're smart, get your kitten and teach it to appreciate different foods at different meal times, so that it doesn't just get really fussy. And please don't overfeed your cat. Limit how much. And if you notice that the cat is gaining a lot of weight and not in proportion, please don't say, "Oh, body positive, I'm overweight and you're overweight. It's okay." No, cats should never be allowed to be overweight. If you are overfeeding, obviously the first step is to limit how much your cat gets per meal. Now, I don't suggest that you necessarily limit it all at once. I would suggest reducing it until you get to the point where you notice that the cat is actually losing weight, and then you can stabilize it at that point, or maybe a little bit higher. I gave my cat like half a cup at every meal, and he had 3 meals a day. One in the morning when I got up, which is like 3:30, and one in the afternoon whenever my kids remember to do that, and one in the evening, or actually late at night because my daughter was responsible for that one. But 3 meals a day is good. Half a cup seemed to work really well for my cat. He was just at the threshold below being fat. He did get a little bit chunky, and so that I reduced his volume, food that he was intaking. I also looked at the protein fat ratio to see if maybe I should do something with that. And yeah, so you can take a look at the fat content. You could take, and again, Fit as a Fiddle, which is weight control, had the lowest by far amount of fat. So I would try for a lot of protein though. That's important. Also, make sure your cat has ways to exercise. All right? So that's it for me. Thank you so much, and have a great day. For your cat too.